Aitzaz Ahsan stresses that the essential purpose of the book being is to discover and define the Indus person. In section 1 of the introduction, he takes on the search of Pakistani identity but fails to locate it by giving arguments but not the answers to the Pakistani identity, by throwing questions like is Pakistani an Arab, Indian or both or a Central Asian. In section 2 of the introduction, Aitzaz Ahsan brings forth the theme of oneness of Bharat. Aitzaz Ahsan gives the geographic boundaries encompassing oneness of India and a common Indian race and refers the same to Jawaharlal Nehru and also quote other proponents of India oneness. In section 3 of the introduction, Aitzaz describes the river Indus, its origin and subsequent fall into the sea. In section 5 of the introduction, Aitzaz deals what he calls the battered soul of Pakistan and professes it is a time to rediscover and restore the soul, the dream in it, and to rediscover and restore Pakistan as a liberal, progressive, modern state. In section 6, as horses were the primary tool of warfare, it is important to note that the superiority of any martial race depended on who tamed, bred, and used the horse first. The visual and psychological impact of an invading army galloping and thundering down the battlefield on horseback was sufficient to unnerve any faint-hearted enemy. Aitzaz gives his own concept of Pakistan's past, present and future by stressing they cut us from our heroes. But the questions and our heroes have survived. They must survive. Pity the nation that forget its heroes. We have to rediscover our heroes. Until we do so, many cancerous myths will continue to harbor in our body, politics, and many unwanted fractious controversies and tendencies will continue to divide us. Aitzaz Ahsan also professing that until the discovery of Mohenjo-daro, there was no evidence that the Indus had a past, as they had flourished and vanished without successor or trace in chronology. This book suggests that Pakistan nurses a bunker mentality, always wary of aggression and on the defensive, and a fragility syndrome when one is apprehensive that another country may annex them forcefully. This feeling of insecurity stems from anxiety about the logic behind the birth of Pakistan. A sovereign state for Muslims is a weak argument in the face of enlightenment that is visiting more and more parts of the globe. This post-partition justification of the country also laments the unbridled growth of fundamentalism, which is not what Jinnah wanted for his dream republic. The subcontinent has its two large river systems, Indus and Ganga. Indus was also separated from India. Its cultural heritage was so distinct that both Shankara and Vivekananda, the two great Hindu integrators, could not create a synthesis of the two regions. Aitzaz Ahsan claims that of the last 6,000 years of Indus history, for nearly 5,500 years, it led a separate life from the Indian mainstream. Only three universal states, the Mauryan, Mughal, and the British could integrate them with a unity of command which lasted hardly 5 centuries. The author also put forward the bold assertion that racially, ethnically, linguistically, and culturally, the people of Pakistan are more closely linked to the people of Central Asia and Iran than Indians. Even though the Indian and the Indus mindset was bogged down by centuries of mutually injurious interactions, that which participated in the partition of the country was the transformation of economy under the British. The Hindu middle class adjusted themselves to the foreign power just as they did with the Muslim invaders earlier and became tightly integrated with the administration of the country. The Muslims could not do it sooner. Then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, since the elite had not fully come to terms with the loss of power to an infidel nation. This caused strife among Hindus and Muslims, which was convenient for the British. A joining of forces took place in the 1857 War of Independence by Awadhi and Bengali sepoys. The Punjabi and Sindhi soldiers who kept their loyalty to their white masters wanted to take revenge against the mutineers who had earlier annexed their homeland. Aitzaz Ahsan claimed this to be the first victory of Indus against India. The flashpoint was reached when Congress could not accommodate the Muslim League in its ministries formed in 1937. After this humiliating defeat and during the Second World War, Jinnah assured himself the support of the Muslim landed aristocracy and state claim for a separate homeland for the Muslims. This was granted eventually, but the author insists that what Jinnah had in mind was nothing like what Pakistan has turned out to be. This is a great effort to provide a logical necessity of the birth of Pakistan. His main hypothesis is that Pakistan, or Indus, Sindh, as he refers to it, has always been integrally different, separate culturally and geographically from India, Hind. Aitzaz Ahsan has come out with a new vision of the history of Pakistan. A vision that may be termed as the discovery of Pakistan. Aitzaz Ahsan has come forwarded boldly on a theme which the Pakistan historians have so far hesitated to elaborate. If we have created Pakistan, there must be the history of the land of the people who have lived and harbor here. The future generations deserve to have a history of the country. The Indus Saga questions and rejects many of the widely accepted myths of subcontinent history, highlights the dichotomy between the Indus region and India, and shows the almost unbroken continuity of a distinct social and political order. Pakistan, unfortunately, has not been defined. We don't have a history. Our history starts from 711 AD with Muhammad bin Qasim. Before that, we just don't. The definitions we accepted today are not those given by Indian or historians, but the Pakistan that we define today is the Pakistan of all those who oppose Pakistan. The history of Pakistan starts with analysis through the vision of Islamic Pakistan. But Pakistan has been a plural, multiracial and multi-ethnic country and has had a history prior to Islam also. An Islamic state is one where the state itself adopt a religion like Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Iran, like the Taliban in Afghanistan. But a Muslim state is where the overwhelming majority is Muslims. It's like France, UK, Denmark. As much as they are Christian states, we are a Muslim state, which Barrister Jinnah wanted to create, because the state does not adopt a religion and the state does not decide based on religion between man and woman. We must have some individuality, some identity, and what really kept agitating me on the issue was, what am I? Why did East Pakistan break up? We were just Muslims. Then that would suffice. We were Muslims and they were Muslims. Why does Kuwait deny me a visa? Or why require the permission of Saudi Arabia to visit Mecca and Medina? Because of the permission of human beings and not of Almighty. If we were just Muslims, that would suffice. Civilizations, in my estimation, are sired and sustained by huge geographical divisions or features like China and India, separated by the Himalayas. If they were flatlands, there would have been a change over the region of 1,000 miles. Mountains are one, oceans are second, and third are rivers. They sire and sustain nations and distinct civilizations. The Indus, flowing from the north to the west into the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, sired and sustained different civilizations from the Jamna and the Brahmaputra coming into a delta 1200 miles away in Bengal. Aitzaz Ahsan said, I don't think we are not part of the Muslim world. That is an extreme position. I think we are a distinct Muslim country. Turkey, Jordan, Kuwait, Pakistan. There is something distinct about each of them. And I draw emphasis on their differences. What is a Pakistan? A Muslim? It is not a complete answer, as there are Hindus and Christians also. When I went to university in England, a friend of mine invited me to spend the weekend with his family during my first Christmas. They were a wealthy family that lived in Bradford and had a huge house. I went there, sat down for dinner, and Mrs. Palmer, his mother, asked me straight away, Son, where are you from? I said, Pakistan. She said, where is Pakistan? Imagine it's 1965 and there were people around the world who had not heard of Pakistan. So I said, Auntie, it is northwest of India. She responded, Oh, you who are the ones that broke away from India. I said yes, thinking that was a sufficient answer. However, she then said, Why did you break away? And I answered, Because we are not Indians. So she asked very casually, What are you? To which I replied, We are Muslims. She asked me, Then aren't the Arabs Muslim? I said, They are. So are you in one state? I said, No, there are some 22 Arabic speaking states. So she said, You can't be an Arab, so you count yourself Pakistani. If you are an Arab, so what are you? I said, We could be Persians and Arab. She said, You could either be Persian or you could be Arabs. So you can all be Muslims, but you can't be an Indian. I want to know what you are. At that point, Mr. Palmer got a little worried and intervened clearly. I was embarrassed and cornered a bit about my origins because she said, All you have said is that you are not India, but you have not said what you are. You haven't defined yourself. I did not have an answer to that at that time, and that haunted me. Now I have an answer. I am an Indus person. Pakistan and Afghanistan are different countries because, again, due to the mountains' physical barriers, the Suleiman Range. We have more Pashtuns in Pakistan than in Afghanistan. We have, but they don't call themselves non-Pakistanis. They call themselves Pashtuns in Pakistan. They are as much Pakistanis as the Pashtuns living in Afghanistan are Afghanis. There may be the same religion, creed, descent, but language unknown will not define their identity. The point is that there can be several subnationalities, but the Indus person combines the Sindhi, the Punjabi, the Pathan, the Baloch, and the Kashmiri. I suggest to my Indian friends to recognize that Indus flowing in one direction has created a separate civilization over centuries. Aitzaz Ahsan defined himself as an anti-historian because of the history taught to him as a child. I am anti that history. A book on history was compiled during Ziaulak's time, where the first chapter discussed Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Fine, you cannot avoid them because you have them on your banknotes. The second chapter of the history of Pakistan was Saudi Arabia before Islam. The third chapter was the message of Islam in Mecca. The fourth chapter was resistance to the message of Islam in Mecca. The fifth chapter was migration to Medina. The sixth chapter was the Medinite state, which our current Prime Minister makes many references to. The seventh chapter was the conquest of Mecca, and the 13th and 14th chapters we see the Umayyads, and by the 15th chapters we come back to Pakistan with Muhammad bin Qasim, the Guptas, Ashoka, Chandragupta Maurya, the Huns, and the Bactrians all had been wiped out from the book. Pakistani identity has always had a complicated relationship with its past, a status that continues to endure, premised upon its opposition to Hindu India. The Pakistani historiography has had a tough time dealing with the Indus Valley civilization, the cradle of the Indian civilization. The Aryan invasion theory was convenient, as it implied that the present-day Indian culture is a product of the invading Aryan forces who destroyed the cities of Indus Valley civilization and gave birth to a new civilization which came to be known as the Ganges civilization. Whereas earlier only the Muslims were seen as invaders and hence outsiders, this theory also described the Aryans as colonizers, damaging their claim that they are the original inhabitants of this land. However, recent studies have raised serious doubt about the Aryan invasion theory and seem to indicate that the Ganges civilization was in many ways a continuation of the Indus Valley civilization. Pakistan found itself in control of archaeological ruins that many believe to be the origin of the Indian civilization, a civilization that the country wanted to disassociate from to carve its own separate Islamic history. Aitzaz Ahsan's book provides a new modus operandi of interpreting the Indus Valley civilization, building upon the now untenable assumption that the Indus Valley civilization and Ganges civilization were separate. Ahsan linked back the Pakistani identity to the Indus Valley civilization, saying that the identity of the people occupying this land was also different from those living in the plains of Ganges. While this book might contain historical inaccuracies, it is remarkable for its attempt to inherit the Indus Valley civilization as part of Pakistan's legacy. In 1827, a soldier of the British India Company, James Lewis, was fed up with the antics of the company and so decided to desert the army. To stay undercover, he changed his name and set out to follow his passion, traveling. After traveling the Indian subcontinent for 2 years, he reached the Punjab region in 1829. Here, he came across the ruins of an unknown ancient city. He had no idea how old the ruins were or the civilization they belonged to. Because he was very passionate about history, he started documenting whatever he came across. He wrote notes and added drawing to them. James Lewis was unaware that he had actually discovered the ancient city of Harappa. 100 years later, in the 1920s, some more information about this ancient civilization was revealed to the world. John Marshall was appointed the director of ASI, and with the help of the Indian archaeologists, he surveyed the ruins of Harappa. It was found that they were older than 5,000 years. Meanwhile, another historical site was found on the banks of the Indus River. The place contained many human skeleton remains. This place was named Mohenjo-daro, the Mound of the Dead. Further excavations revealed more such ruins, many such historical sites. It was found that buried in these ruins were the proof of a civilization that was unknown till then. Because these ruins were found on the back of Indus River, this civilization was named the Indus Valley Civilization. Today in 2023, we know a lot of things about this civilization. It is a part of the school curriculum as well. But two mysteries still remain. First, the Harappan language, the one in which they wrote. What do those words mean? How can that writing be decoded? And second, the end of this great civilization. What happened to these people? The Indus Saga and the Making of Pakistan by Aitzaz Ahsan. The Indus Valley Civilization is amongst the oldest in a long list of cultures that this land has seen. As an inheritor of the Indus Valley civilizations, these findings should be of great interest to Pakistan. After all, it is in Sindh district Larkana that Mohenjo-daro, one of the jewels in the crown of the Indus Valley civilization, is located, whereas Harappa in Punjab is another key site. On 4 June 2005, Lal Krishna Advani visited the grave of the founder of Pakistan in Karachi. In the visitor's book, he wrote the following words. The Indian freedom struggle describes Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah as an ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity. His address to the First Constituent Assembly of Pakistan in August 1947 is a classic. A secular state in which every citizen should be free to pursue his own religion. The state shall make no distinction between one and another citizen on the ground of faith. My respectful homage to this great man. This raised a storm on both sides of the Indo-Pak divide. On the Pakistani side, there was outrage on why the vision of Jinnah, the Quaid-e-Azam, has been described as secular. On the Indian side, extremists took umbrage at why Jinnah, the communist, has been referred to as a secularist. Jinnah was misunderstood on both sides of the border. So, for once, was Advani.